than Portugal on the amount of drug deaths, but per million. But that's amazing. And then they showed
Absolutely.
in 2001 they had it looked like they had 79 drug-induced deaths in 2001, and in 2011 they only had 10, and then 2012 it kind of rose a little bit to 15, but then 2017 it's down to 6. That's pretty amazing.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So it seems to really be working for them. Obviously, it's a different country, different circumstances, but in my general thinking, instead of criminalizing people for putting something in their body because of, they want to change the way they feel or change the way they think for that day, let's instead look at ways of how can we help improve the situation, or how can we get counseling, or how can we solve the underlying issues, instead of, oh, I caught you because you wanted to feel different today. So, you shot up heroin so your problems would go away. Open up centers that say, hey, let me actually try to help solve this problem. And then one of this very interesting fact that I found reading some of the articles, I'll read it to you, talking about the language that people would use around drug addicts. So this says the language began to shift. Those who have been referred to sneeringly as drogados, like drug addicts, junkies, literally, became known more broadly and more sympathetically as people who use drugs or people with addiction disorders. So instead of saying, oh, yeah, he's a junkie, they're now saying, oh, no, he's actually someone with a disorder. Let's treat the disorder just like you would cancer, or just like you would, mental health issues, or whatever the case may be. Let's treat the disorder instead of just saying, oh, he's a junkie, that's what he does. And shifting the language around that has helped dramatically increase, the success of the program in Portugal as well.
And I know there's been a lot of talk from people in the United States that that we think are stoners or potheads, and they say we need to decriminalize crimes against oneself. Not really necessarily like suicide and things like that, but I'm talking about taking drugs and putting a high price on their sentences for them using drugs on their own. And I know they're not horrible sentences, but we still should decriminalize that a little bit, because really you're doing it to yourself. And then
Absolutely.
And I think the I can't pronounce this guy's name because it's Portuguese, but I've got another little quote on here for the guy who started the decriminalization policy in Portugal, and I can't say his name for the life of me, but Dr. Wow Gulao, I don't know how to say it, but he said it's very difficult to identify a causal link between decriminalization by itself and the positive tendencies we've seen. It's a total package. The biggest effect has been to allow the stigma of drug addiction to fall, to let people speak clearly, and to pursue professional help without fear. So if you're embarrassed, like all these people are, and they go, oh, they think I'm a junkie, they're never going to want to seek help. And I mean, there's some that do, but it's a dime a dozen. And these people just get into these horrible life cycles of just stealing and lying and living in squalor and living in these homeless situations and just try to find any way they can to get a fix every day, and I don't know, it's just sad.
It is.
I wish we could fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of these people that even if you want to find help, then it's where do you go and where is that help? And we don't really have that stateside. And if we do, you better have rich family that can pay for you to go to one of these clinics, or hope you have really good insurance at your job, which, it's pretty hard to hold down a job if you're shooting up heroin every day. So it really does become a cycle that try to solve the cycle and not just throw someone in jail, but actually solving the issues behind it. And we won't solve everything. I don't think that's realistic. A lot of it's mental health issues with people that are really hard to solve and take people with higher education and more counseling and schooling than I have to diagnose that sort of thing. But I do believe it's important to start looking at ways how can we work on helping people instead of just locking them up in a box
And I know
throwing the key away.
I know we're decriminalizing marijuana somewhat, but that really isn't the issue. It's really like heroin and meth and crack cocaine. Those are the big ones that cause most of the violence and the ODs and the deaths and all that stuff. And that's really
absolutely.
the big issue. I do know cops, and they say that they're just basically writing tickets for marijuana possession as long as it's not intent to distribute or sell. They're not really, even though it's on the books that they could be arrested, they're not really, I know locally they're not really going to, I don't want to get in trouble for this, but they're not really going to arrest people for having it for personal use. So they're kind of doing that in a small way. There's just so much more to do with heavier drugs. It's just, there's a lot more because like people are into pills and stealing prescription medicine and trying to beg doctors for prescription medicine they don't need and then selling them to make a living. I mean, I just know a former person I used to work with. Recently, trying to get a prescription for a pain and then trying to sell the whole bottle just to pay your mortgage and rent the next month. That's just an example of somebody I know that did that. It's just so sad. And if there was decriminalization of that, you think they would never get to that point of needing to do that. They might have been in a center where they could live and maybe, I don't know. I'm not super progressively liberal, but that's one progressive liberal tack that I would take is to try to do what Portugal's doing. I know I don't have any control, but it sounds like it helped them tremendously.
Yeah. I don't think it could hurt in any capacity trying to offer another avenue for people who need it. And a lot of people try to help out in the ways they can, but the amount of stories, especially where we are in kind of rural Indiana, of someone blew out their back playing basketball and started taking pain pills and liked how it felt, got addicted, then the doctor stops writing the scripts. And so now you got to find something to make you feel that way. And, you turn to the heroin or you go to the
because I know a lot of doctors now, I know like in the 80s and 90s, it was super easy in early 2000s to get any kind of pain medicine you want. You get some doctor to write any script just to get you out of the office. But now if those people are on like opioids or pain medication, and they test positive of marijuana or any other Schedule A drug, then they can't have their pain medicine anymore. And like you just said, they're going to seek something worse to stop the pain. And then it just gets to the point where it's a vicious cycle where they have to spend a lot for it. They start sacrificing buying food and taking care of their kids so they can have that next fix. It's a cycle that you go down, or a road that you go down that you can't seem to get off of. It's just so sad.
Yeah. And it's all classes. It's, like former professionals and doctors and nurses and teachers. It's not just, you see someone, you just realize, oh, they're, homeless, living in the street. But 3-4 years ago, they could have been a fully functioning adult with a, 401k and just went down the wrong path because one injury and one prescription sent them down. It makes it scary. And that's why, even personally for me, I'm very against a doctor recommending anything. Like if I'm, even to the point, if I go get a tooth filled or pulled, I say, I don't want any of the Novocaine. I don't want that. Just do it and get it over with, because I know myself, I tend to be one who's going to be more of an extremist. And so I know I would be with addictive personality. So I don't want to mess around with that at all.
Well, I'm pretty lucky. I've had like 3 surgeries and I've always gotten pain medication, and it makes me sick. So I don't use it.
Okay.
I might use it. Like I had Vicodin one time for, I think one of my shoulder surgeries. I was so nauseous from taking it that I can't even use it. And I had another medication. I don't know if it was Norco or whatever it was, some kind of another pain medication, because I didn't want Vicodin. It didn't make me feel good. And God forbid, not to be too personal, but it gave me so much constipation. I would take the pain over that. So,
wow. Okay.
I didn't want to get too personal, but luckily I don't feel right on that stuff anyway. So I'm real lucky, but I'm lucky. I have a high tolerance for pain, so it doesn't really bother me much, but I just wish we could solve it. But man, I'm telling you, we went probably an hour and a half, man. That was awesome.
We did, yeah. This is
your third podcast with me. I don't think I started out with saying that, but I mean, you've been a good person to have. Doug was my old crony. If I can get him back on, that'd be great. But we'll have to do another one another time. But it's awesome talking to you, man. I won't keep you much longer. But that was good stuff. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on and letting me kind of go down memory lane on the life that I lived and experienced. From teenagehood on, and just the way it's kind of impacted the choices and what I've done now. And then, what I see with the way America has gone and, living on the border, and then with President Trump being so big on that as a hot button topic. It's just, I feel like I've kind of been in the center of a lot of different discussions in the past few years. So appreciate you having me on and let me kind of share my thoughts and experiences on that.
Yeah, your perspective is important because, I mean, a lot of us can't speak to those things because we never saw it. We don't really know what's going on down there, how the culture is down there. We really don't know firsthand accounts how it really works. And I kind of wanted to get you on to talk about that and culture, period, because I love listening to stories about culture in other countries and hearing about different things that go on in other places. I really am I'm real interested in that kind of stuff. So I really thank you. That was awesome. And well, hey man, I guess I'll see you soon enough.
Yeah. So, I'll see you back at work.
All right, man. Well, you take it easy and have a good night.
Likewise. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Good dude right there. That's Jordan, or we call him J-Mac, but he's been on 2 of my previous podcasts, the one, What's Streaming 3, and the NCAA March Madness podcast. But I really wanted him. I work with the guy, and he was telling me how he's lived in a lot of different places. He was a missionary, and I learned a lot about what a missionary really is. And I really have a good perspective of what they do, and I have a higher regard for what they do now. You thinking they're just holy rolling and saying if you don't go to Jesus, you're going to go to hell. That's not even close to what it is. It's just people helping other people out, just being human and trying to do the right thing and treat people right and treat people with equality and dignity. And I think it's awesome. So it was a really good experience and knowledge that I've gained from talking to him about what a missionary really does and what they try to do. So I really have a totally different idea about what missionary work is, and I really have a, high respect for that now. So, but that's about it for tonight. So hopefully I can get another podcast out. I'm hoping to talk about the issues of sports, like amateur sports in Indiana. So I'm hoping I get 2 of my good buddies that know a lot about that, travel league sports, and how I think it's ruining, local youth leagues for basketball, baseball, and sports like that. I'd like to delve into that issue. So hopefully that's the next podcast I do. But I will talk to you later.